This is Kelly Hart, Executive Editor of Ocala Magazine. Did you know last year Ocala Magazine won more awards in excellence than any other publication in Florida? And this year, Ocala Magazine was named Best Consumer Magazine in the state. Now you can join me every Friday at 10 a.m. on Ocala Magazine Radio, where we bring the pages of Ocala Magazine to life, right here on The Source. Ocala Magazine thanks you for making us number one. And remember, there is only one Ocala Magazine.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
All right, 5 minutes after 9 o'clock. I got a little story. I don't want to take too long to tell you this story because I want to make sure we get to our guest right away. So here's my quick story. A few years ago, Robin and I went bicycling. And we lost the trail somehow. We were like on this grassy area, and it's like, Robin, I can't even tell where the trail is anymore. Where are we? And we ended up in the woods, and then we were walking the bicycles because, well, you couldn't really ride them in the woods.
In the swamp.
In the swamp, and then there was a spider, a big banana spider. And we were walking, and then I saw this banana spider, and I said, is that the same banana spider? And we were lost. We were lost. And we finally found our way to this river where these kids had a canoe, and they knew where they were. And they could not tell us how to get back to where we needed to go because they only knew the river. Mm-hmm. And so they had a 2-liter bottle of Mountain Dew, which I paid them $5 for.
They were happy.
Because we didn't think to bring any water with us, and we were going to die. Because it was in the middle of summer here in Florida, and it was hot. So yesterday, now fast forward to yesterday. Fast forward to a few weeks ago when I start looking at this giraffe that's going to have a baby. And for some reason, I'm looking at this giraffe that's in New York, but I'm looking at it on a channel in a Fox News channel in Arizona. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now I'm friends with the Fox News channel, and I keep getting these updates from them. And yesterday they had an update, which has nothing to do with the giraffe, about a guy that was lost in the mountains around Phoenix.
Yes.
I think I said that right, mm-hmm. Right around Phoenix. And he didn't have any water. He was dehydrated. He was hiking. All right. So the third part of this story is, this first is us getting stuck in our story. Second is this guy getting stuck. Third is my son is going on a 30-mile hike. I guess that's not big compared to what hikers normally do. It sounds like a lot of walking to me. Mm-hmm. But I know that's what he does it a lot. So anyways, he's going to go on this 30-mile hike in Colorado in September. Mm-hmm. Then I get this call from one of our publicists about Andrew Skurka. He is a renowned hiker. Probably 30 miles doesn't sound like much to him. Mm-hmm. He's a hiking coach, and he's got a book, and I'm going to give the book to my son because I want my son to here's the whole reason to tell you the whole story. Dehydration in our story, dehydration in this guy's story in Phoenix yesterday. Whatever you need, take water.
Yes.
And probably a knife. I'm guessing a knife is handy too. Andrew Skurka is the author of the book called The Ultimate Hiker's Gear Guide, Tools and Techniques to Hit the Trail. I was looking at some of it online. It really looks, I love the stuff. You know, I don't know how far I would ever hike, but I love the stuff. Andrew, good morning, sir. I'm sorry I took so long to introduce you, but I had a story to tell, and I did. So, good morning.
It was an excellent introduction, so take your time. Thanks very much for having me on.
Where are you? Where are you right now?
I'm calling from Boulder, Colorado, actually. So your son will be coming out here, I guess, in September.
Yeah, well, my question to him, because I'm just a nervous dad. He's 30 years old, so he's his own man. But I'm just saying, you know, you're a dad. You always get nervous. But anyway, so I said, is it already a trail that somebody else has established, or are you just going to, find a place and walk? So it sounds like it's already established. That kind of put me a little bit at ease.
Yeah, there are plenty of hiking trails here in Colorado. You could travel off trail, too, but I generally don't recommend it if someone's not experienced.
Is that why you live there? It was because of the trails?
That's definitely part of the reason I live here. So Boulder is on the Front Range, so we're not far from Denver, and I've just always found it a great combination of a place where I could have a legitimate job and be not far from a major airport, and then the recreation is phenomenal here.
Oh, that's awesome. Do you know the lesson we learned from our bicycle story is that you have to bring water The problem is, it's not always easy to bring water. Water's heavy, right?
Very.
It is. It weighs 2 pounds per quart.
So how do you carry water? Let's start with the water. What do you use?
Okay, so to carry water, typically I'm going to use like a collapsible 1 liter bottle is kind of my go-to drinking bottle. A lot of other hikers, they'll go something a little bit less expensive. They literally will just go to the recycling bin or the grocery store and they'll buy a 1 liter smart bottle. So that's kind of like your drinking bottle. And then for storage, I'll definitely bring some additional collapsible bottles. And how much storage I bring will depend on exactly where I am and how far I'm having to go between water sources. So in a place like Colorado, where we have a lot of water, I probably usually only bring like 1 extra liter of capacity. Whereas if I'm going to be hiking, say down over in southern Utah, where there's much less water, then I'll probably carry another like 2, 3, 4 liters of extra capacity.
All right, we had a Kickstarter guest on one time, and he was trying to raise money to develop a filter for that'll make bad water good water. To put it simply, I suppose he was successful. I don't know. Do you take anything like that with you? Anything that like here in Florida, we got lots of water too, but you never know if it's safe to drink.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you never know if backcountry water is safe to drink. And also in disclosure, there are plenty of cases where I'm perfectly happy to drink water that's unpurified. For example, like in Colorado, the snowpack here in Colorado, that's what we drink down here in the Front Range. It's been treated or at least tested. But say if you're getting water up in Rocky Mountain National Park, like from immediately below a snowfield, it's pretty good water. But in other places, I definitely always purify my water. That's going to be my general recommendation. And there are a couple of different treatments that work pretty well. One is it's called Aquamira. It's a chlorine dioxide-based treatment. That's pretty effective and it's lightweight. You could definitely also use a filter. The best filters nowadays, at least sort of the most convenient, you just sort of screw on the filter to your bottle, and then you can let the water drip through or squeeze it through the filter. Another system that people like it's an ultraviolet pen, and these are all systems that work pretty well. There are pros and cons to each, but all of them are pretty effective and will allow you to get water while you're out there. Yeah, and you guys were fortunate and found some kids with Mountain Dew, because that's the ultimate. You can get Mountain Dew out there.
Yeah, we found kids with Mountain Dew.
There've been a lot of days where I'd be like, God, how much would I pay right now for Coca-Cola?
Andrew Skurka is our guest. Am I saying your last name correctly, Andrew?
Yes, you are. Yeah.
Okay. One of the things when I read a book like this, and there's one specific thing I want to ask you about, but usually I'm always very, very grateful because you've made mistakes that I might make myself, except for the fact that I read that you made the mistake. and so your mistakes kind of help us not make them, one of which is very important to us in Florida. And this is what you wrote. You wrote, "It's a mistake I only had to make once, leaving behind the half-ounce head net to save weight during the High Sierra's peak mosquito season." Then you wrote dumb, right? So yeah, we have, mosquitoes are a huge problem. Not just that, but we have ticks. We have, we got lots of stuff here that could be a problem.
Right. You sound like you read the book pretty well. Yeah, that's kind of one of the themes of the book is that I unfortunately have made a lot of mistakes. I started backpacking in my early 20s when I had much more time than money. And I was willing to go out there without sort of educating myself through other means and just learning the hard way. And that's fine if you're in your early 20s. I'm in a different place in my life right now, and I think most other people are as well. And frankly, I'm happy to buy a book or read information that helps me to save money or that helps, if nothing else, helps me to save some misery. Especially if it's like a lot of people, I'm fortunate that I get out more than most, but for most people, like here in Colorado, I'd say like it's a great summer for them if they can get out for like 2 or 3 3-day trekking trips. So why ruin it by not educating yourself first?
So how do you know what to take in your backpack? But when you're sleeping there overnight, are you able to take some kind of a tent, or do you just take like a sleeping bag, or how does that work? Because I get cold. I like to stay warm.
You take all of the above. So I recommend, and the exact sort of product would depend on where you are and what your budget is like. But you're going to carry a sleeping bag. Preferably, it's going to be made out. It's going to be insulated with down or with some sort of synthetic insulation. And then, although in Florida, you could probably also get away with just like a fleece blanket for quite a bit of the year as well. And then you're going to carry a sleeping pad, and the sleeping pad it kind of has two functions. One is to help insulate you from the ground because you don't want to be sleeping directly on cold ground. But then the other thing that it does is it provides comfort. It basically makes the ground softer. And then you're going to be sleeping in some sort of tent or a tarp, or believe it or not, like in Florida, probably what I would use would be a hammock. And all of those are designed to keep the rain off of you and protect you from insects.
No, a hammock.
The hammock. Oh,
I like those.
Yeah, hammock is a hammock. It's a niche product still in the backpacking world, but I think for forested areas, especially in areas where the ground campsites can be pretty tough. So like they're wet, they're really hard packed, they're rocky, they're rooty. A hammock makes a lot of sense because it gets you off the ground and you can get a comfortable and reliable night's sleep.
do you typically walk alone? Do you hike alone?
It's a mixed bag. I do lots of solo trips. All of my long trips have been solo. So, like I did an 11-month solo trip and a 7-month solo trip and a 6-month solo trip. And then I guide a lot of trips, so those are all with people. And probably like once, twice, 2 times a year, I'll go backpacking with my wife. Or in the fall, we have our big game hunting season, so I'll go out with a buddy then.
What do you recommend for somebody who's never done it? I mean, 30 miles. Well, how does that sound to you? That's what my son's plan is, and I think it takes a week. So that's like that's 5 miles a day. That doesn't sound too hard to do. But what about the feet? I mean, wouldn't the feet hurt if you're not used to it? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, the amount of miles or whether your feet hurt are going to depend on what you're biting off, right? So I'm not sure what kind of fitness your son is in, but 30 miles over the course of a week sounds pretty manageable. Colorado is more difficult to hike than most other states because we're at elevation here and we have a lot of topographic relief, so we've got big mountains. And so that makes hiking a mile more difficult than it would be elsewhere.
Don't scare me too much. Don't scare me.
But he's going to be fine. Is he going? Do you know is he going to Rocky Mountain National Park or is he going to like?
I don't know, but I'm giving your book to him. That's what I'm doing.
I had looked at your website, and you've got different kind of gear there, and I was intrigued by the backpack because I like to walk and hike, but I also don't want to have something that's really heavy, so I can't enjoy the hike. But your backpack is cool looking.
The backpack's very, very cool. It's done really well. It just I co-developed this backpack with Sear Designs, and it's the sort of the big sort of compelling feature on it. It's that expanding gusset in the back, which allows it to expand between 40 and 60 liters, and that way it just has a better range than most backpacks. Most backpacks, they tend to be good for like a long weekend or a week. This backpack covers that range pretty well without much in the way of trade-offs.
The book is very, very well done. For anybody who is interested in hiking and you want some kind of a guide, some information. I want to ask you about shoes too, by the way. But this is really a very useful book. I love books that are useful, and National Geographic and you have put together such a pleasant to look at book, as well as having some great information in it. So talk about the shoes just a little bit. Do you get what you pay for? If you spend more money, are you automatically going to get a better shoe?
Not necessarily. There's definitely a threshold where you have to probably spend a certain amount of money just to get a quality, like a well-built shoe. But I'm not convinced that a pair of $250 shoes is going to be any better than a pair of $125 shoes. And of course, I'm assuming that you can get them for much less if you're buying them like off season and like a discontinued model or last year's colors or something like that. But the shoes that I generally recommend. There's always get a little pushback on this, but I generally recommend that people use like a robust trail running shoe or a lightweight hiking shoe. and I think that most people who end up using that type of shoe find them much more comfortable. Like, they're comfortable right out of the box. You don't have to break them in. They're much lighter, so you feel more energized at the end of the day, rather than just sort of being worn out by lifting up your foot so many times per day. Like, if you have a big heavy pair of hiking boots, they're just not that comfortable. And then I recommend that they also not waterproof. I find that over a longer term trip, so like a couple of days, if you're in wet conditions, your feet just aren't going to stay dry. And you guys know how hard it rains there in Florida. Mm-hmm. If you're out backpacking in Florida for a couple of days, there's nothing that you own that's going to stay dry, including your feet, including your shoes.
Oh my gosh!
So, and then if you have a waterproof, say you're wearing a waterproof boot, now you have this soaking wet waterproof boot that doesn't ever dry until you get home, and your foot is trapped in this hot, wet environment. So it's better to have a breathable shoe that dries quickly and that can drain water. And then what you do is you learn how to manage wet feet.
We have we have a phone line and it rang, so let's take a phone call question from a listener. Good morning. Thank you for calling. You're on there with Andrew Skurka.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. Hey, for finding the true direction, can you rely on moss growing on the north side of trees everywhere?
That's a good question. It depends on if you're in an area where moss actually grows. So I would say in a place like Florida, it's wet enough where moss could grow, or say where I grew up in the Northeast. If moss is growing, it's generally going to be on the north side of the trees, because that's the area that gets the least amount of sunlight.
Well, see, I would have never known that. That's a good tip. And do you bring things like a Boy Scout would have, like a compass? And you know the question I was going to ask, and maybe you can answer both at once. When I used to go camping when I was younger, but I didn't do like you do. I mean, I would go to KOA, okay? But I would always forget.
In a tent.
I would always forget two things. I would forget the can opener and a flashlight. Now, I'm guessing there must be some things in the beginning anyway. There must have been some things that you always forgot. Was there anything?
Let's see. So, when I first started backpacking, I didn't forget anything. I had everything.
Oh, too much.
Way too much. Yeah, so for example, of course I carried a can opener, even though I never ate anything that needed to be opened out of the can. So, and I carried a headlamp with enough batteries that probably would last me about a year. So, So in regards to you mentioned the compass earlier. So I'm actually still the technology is changing pretty quickly. A lot of hikers are increasingly using their smartphones to navigate through the woods, which I think is fine if they're comfortable with it. I'm still old school in that I like a paper map and a magnetic compass. I find it to be it's a lightweight system. It's reliable. It doesn't need any batteries. If I drop it, it doesn't break. And I also find it just to be really sort of fast and efficient. But I'm also really comfortable with it after using it for many years.
Oh, you recommend bear defense?
Oh my God, bears!
What is that?
If you're in an area where there are grizzly bears, then definitely carry bear spray. If you're in an area with black bears, I wouldn't encourage it as much. What I probably do, I would call, suppose I was going to say the Smoky Mountains in North Carolina and Tennessee, and I know that there are bears there, and I hear every once in a while there's some issues. I probably would call the park and say, hey, what's the story with the bears? Do I need to carry bear spray? And I would use their recommendation.
Oh, okay. Now, how about food, though? I mean, do you carry snacks? Do you carry dried food like the astronauts had in the very beginning of the space program, or how do you do with that?
So, I carry food. I generally recommend carrying between 18 and 22 ounces of food per day per person, and all of the food should be calorically dense, so no water added. So don't bring a can of tuna, because it might be okay for a day or two, but if you're carrying a can of tuna for a week-long trip, it's just not very efficient. So basically what happens is that you need a certain number of calories to stay energized each day, and if you're carrying tuna, which doesn't have many calories in it per weight, you're going to be carrying a lot of food weight. Whereas if you carry, believe it or not, if you carry fattier foods, mm-hmm. So Fritos and Snickers and olive oil and butter and cheese is okay, and like that cashews. Those are like really calorically dense foods, so you could carry a lot less weight in food by carrying those items.
Oh my gosh! The book is called "The Ultimate Hiker's Gear Guide." My son is going. You know what? He's going in September. His birthday is in July, so I'm going to pay attention to some of these things. And this is the birthday list right here. These are the gifts. He probably has it all already. Anyway, he is in. Your question: how good shape he is, and he's in very good shape. He's going with two other guys though, so there'll be three of them. Now, what happens if one of them has a hurt foot? Do the other two just say, "You're on your own. We're going"? Or what do you do? Call for a helicopter? What do you do?
Well, it depends on how hurt the foot is. So the proper backcountry etiquette is to self-rescue if it's possible. So if he just says like, "Oh, my foot hurts," then he should probably hike out. If he has like broken his ankle and he cannot put any weight on it, then maybe it's pretty difficult to keep someone out very far. So at that point, you're probably looking at some external help. And there are a few ways to call for help. One way is obviously a cell phone. They don't necessarily work though deep in the backcountry.
Yeah.
So then, if that's the case, then there are some devices. Like one is called a Garmin InReach, and it's a satellite-based text messenger. You basically use your smartphone like a keypad, and you use this InReach like a modem, and you can send text messages via satellite, and that would allow you to...
Andrew, you don't have to answer this one on the air, but does the book address the bathroom question?
Oh, there you go.
The book doesn't address the bathroom question really well, but there is a lot of content up on my website, and in fact, there's like a 4-part tutorial on pooping in the outdoors up on my website. It includes a video, and it's like good text descriptions about sort of how to do it and where to do it, and sort of some regional considerations, like if you're hiking in, say, Arizona, where it's really dry and arid, the way to go about it there is different than, say, in the Rocky Mountains in Colorado.
Andrew Skurka is the first person who ever said pooping in the outdoors on our show.
All right.
Oh my gosh! I'm listening to everything you're saying, and I'm trying to. Oh my gosh! I'm trying to imagine. My son does marathons. He's right.
Yeah,
Hasn't he run a marathon?
Oh yeah.
He went out to San Francisco and he walked 26 miles. So, but that's like in the Golden Gate Bridge and that kind of thing. So I guess he's okay with the hiking part. It's being out in the woods that I'm worried about.
Some people,
he'll manage. He'll have a good time.
People hike. They're all different heights and weights, and everybody sort of has to pack their backpack the same way with the same kind of items to get through the same length of time. How much weight can a person carry if if you're a woman or a fella, or if you weigh one poundage or weigh something else? I mean, how much weight can we safely carry to still enjoy ourselves?
That's a good question. So there used to be some thresholds or some like proportions that they would say, like, well, you shouldn't carry more than, say, 25% of your body weight. And with the technology, with the backpacking technology and the gear that we have nowadays, that sort of number is just, it's kind of irrelevant. It depends on the conditions that you're getting yourself into, but I would say like a decent pack weight, like one that's manageable, but that still you're going to have everything you need. If you pack very deliberately, you should be able to carry about 15 to 20 pounds without food and water, and have everything you need and feel super comfortable with that. If you're hiking in a like sort of a friendlier environment, so like warmer, drier, you can get by with more of like that 10 to 15 pounds and still have everything you need to be really comfortable. That said, the way that I talk about backpacking, I think there are kind of like two extreme styles of it. And some people, when they go backpacking, they're out there just to camp. Like they hike in a few miles and they bring a ton of stuff. They bring a guitar, and they bring a big digital SLR camera, and they bring a fishing pole, and they can carry they carry a lot of weight because they can. They're not going to carry it very far, and their sort of objective once they get is those extracurricular activities when they go backpacking.
Andrew,
and other people who Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm loving the conversation, but we're up against the clock. I'm so sorry. I went to your website, andrewskurka.com. The photographs have to be a huge part of this. I just love that first photograph. I wish I had time to ask you about the photographs, but is that where we get the book, from your website?
You can get it from my website. I've got signed copies there. You can also buy it from Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and hopefully there's some local bookstores in your area that are carrying it as well. And National Geographic is the publisher, so their distribution is pretty good.
And it looks like in March you're going to be in North Carolina, so not far from us. I love North Carolina. Asheville, you're going to be in Asheville. I love that area of the country. Thank you for being on the air with us, Andrew. You're actually contributing to my son's hiking trip out in Colorado. The book, again, is The Ultimate Hiker's Gear Guide. Andrew Skurka, Skurka. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for being on there with us. Please be safe.
Hey, thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, we'll be right back.
Stay informed on everything going on in the villages with the Village Spectator newspaper. The Village Spectator is exclusively devoted to the villages with news, commentary, and more. And yes, they have Tom's Picks, a free referral for people who are looking for a company to do work for them. Tom's Picks will refer the company that fits your needs, and all we ask is that you tell them where you heard about them. Call Tom's Picks at 804-1223 and pick up your copy of the Village Spectator today.
Now read Ocala Downtown newspaper online.
Hi, this is Vanessa Lane Jennings with the Jennings Law Firm, located here in beautiful Ocala. Join me every single Friday at 10:30 for Legal Lane. We'll be discussing various legal topics such as family law, criminal law, contracts, and much more. So this is your chance to call in with your legal questions and have them answered. That's every Friday, 10:30, right here, WOCA, The Source.
Veterans are the foundation upon which our freedom is built. Listen to The Source, WOCA, each Thursday at 9 a.m. to Veterans News with Hank Whittier from Vets Helping Vets. You'll hear tributes, information on veterans issues, and stories that will make you laugh, cry, and feel proud. Veterans News always focuses on the military, past and present, and on our first responders. Veterans News is brought to you each week by Bob Wine's Camellia Gardens and Nursery, keeping you blooming since 1952. Robin, how do you like my design?
You're designing a box?
That's not a box. It's a doghouse.
Rough draft for your rough? Sounds like you need personal service.
I do?
Yes, to print the blueprints. See Mark at the Personal Service Center. He can print blueprints, notarize permit applications, print and mail out invoices, and even provide great-looking business cards.
Personal Service Center. That's the one on the corner of Northeast 25th Avenue and 24th Street, right?
Just look for the yellow signs. Your pedigree palace will be a reality in no time.
WOCA gets results.
Hi, this is Leah Caruso with Strive Physical Therapy Centers. One of the things that Strive does is we try to track how people learn about us and what they hear in the community about us. So that's one of our questions. And a lot of times they said they've heard us on the radio or they heard something on the radio that really touched them or a member of their family. WOCA has been extremely helpful in Strive's goals to educate the community.
WOCA gets results.
That was the sound of a tree falling. It could be your tree. You're going to have it trimmed, but never got around to calling Pride Tree Service. It could have fallen in a field, and now all you have to do is call Pride Tree Service, and they'll have it quickly out of the way for a great price. But don't wait until the tree falls. It may not fall in the field. It may hit your car, your house, or worse. So call Pride Tree Service.